All right, let's start the second hour. Procedural issues, Zach, have been apparently a major problem for the Browns offense. Is this as big a problem as it's being made out to be? And if so, who's the main culprit?
Well, it's a noticeable problem,
Yeah.
but it's also, 2 weeks into training camp with a brand new everything. And
Okay,
they had
fair.
a 1-minute drill, and it ended with a false start and another penalty. And then the second group looked like they were off to a good start, and it ended with 2 straight false starts. So
Right.
it's part of what goes on. Last Friday was when they were in the indoor field house, and there was a delay of game. And Quinshon Judkins was lined up to this side of Watson. And Todd Monken even joked about this later. He was like, you should see the video. They're looking at each other. They're saying, you're in the wrong place. And he's saying, no, I'm not. And they took the delay of game.
Who screwed up?
He didn't say who.
Yeah, okay.
He said, but they just watched the video for.
Yeah.
I do wish we could have access to the GoPro
Yes.
footage. That would be
So
awesome.
this is stuff that goes on and stuff that they're working through, and you would like to see it eliminated as you go.
Right.
And you don't go out in the game and say, let's commit a penalty just to do it. But
Sure.
sometimes you got to have the teachable moments.
How much is the quarterback to blame in those situations?
I think you can make a fair case a lot of times because he's the commander of the huddle.
Yeah.
But when it's a 1-minute drill and it's 3rd and 8, and that defense knows you're throwing and they're coming back, then Spencer Fano's just trying to get an early jump. That's all he's doing.
Right.
He wants to do his job. And so it's a mental mistake, but it's just as much physical because and that's when the defense puts you in bad spots. So like I said, overall, like the presentation and tempo of practice, it looks like a real football team to me. I don't.
Good.
There's been a couple days where the overall passing game was so bad I was like, I can't believe what I'm watching. But the last one of those was a full week ago now. So
So
yes,
you're taking incremental progress.
yes, there's penalties, there's progress. There's not every drill ends in a touchdown, quite obviously. But like overall, like I think they're on track for being 11 practices in.
I think it's impossible to parse out who's at fault, whether it's the quarterback, an offensive lineman, is the offense too complicated. We're not in that. We don't know. But I tried to do my best to figure out if Todd Monken historically has had a complicated offense. So I went back. Every year he's been an offensive coordinator in the NFL and found where his team ranked in the most pre-snap penalties each season. And I thought it was, I'm not sure it's telling. I'll give you the numbers, but you guys can tell me if you can find any correlation between the numbers. Last season in Baltimore, the Ravens had 39 pre-snap offensive penalties. That was the 21st most in the NFL. So not bad. In 2024, they had 47 pre-snap offensive penalties. That ranked 17th most. In 2023, it was 35. The 20th most, so his 3 years in Baltimore, 21, 17, and 20th. And then his one season in Cleveland in 2019, they had 40 pre-snap penalties, which was the 12th most. Obviously, we know that season was a bit chaotic. Freddie Kitchens, that whole experiment did not work. But he's been about middle of the pack from an offensive coordinator standpoint, from a play caller standpoint, in terms of his teams and how frequently they commit pre-snap penalties. So I don't think it's 100% to blame in any one individual area. It's definitely spread out across everybody because it's a full team operation. But it also shows, and the numbers prove it, Monken's offenses are pretty complicated, and it takes a lot to kind of understand, to learn, and especially when you're going through it for a first time, I think we have to be a little more lenient and not get too crazy about these pre-snap procedural penalties because it's part of the learning process.
It was a good dig by you. Good, finding those numbers. I think Todd would say, hey, 2 a game is too many. But that's just league average. That's what's going on.
I've also never attributed pre-snap penalties to the offensive coordinator. That's always been the head coach gets banged for that.
Oh, and I should mention the Browns ranked higher than the Ravens each of the last 3 years in pre-snap penalties.
Yeah.
So even those numbers, the 39, 47, and 35, each of the last 3 years were below where the Browns were.
I don't understand why you think that proves that his offense is complicated.
I don't think it proves anything. I'm just saying if there's a ton of pre-snap penalties, a lot of times that's illegal shifts, illegal motions, false starts. Guys aren't lined up
Jason's
in the right way.
But where it does fall on the offensive coordinator is if it's not coming in on time.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's where you need the rhythm of playing in games of, okay,
Right.
hey, it's 2nd and 6, and this is what we're calling if we convert it, and this is what we're calling if we botch it and it's 3rd and 11. And you can't always have it right now, but as you go, you get better at
Yes.
having it right.
It does in a rhythm.
The word cadence has come up more in the last 3 weeks than it ever has, ever. But I do think it's interesting that, like Todd said, he's trying to put, 10? He wants 10 different cadences in. So I think that inevitably is going to lead to a lot of penalties early in training camp because we already talked about that was one thing that Shador struggled with last year. Deshaun hasn't played in 2 years. doesn't know the language. You know what I mean? So it's inevitable. You're going to have a lot early on.
And all the offensive linemen are new pretty much. I mean, it's a lot of new pieces.
And this all says, hey, pick a quarterback and get used to it.
Right.
Right? Especially because their offensive linemen are all new. Well, there's been a different right guard most days. There's been a different center some days.
Yeah.
There's a different quarterback every other day except for one.
Have you ever heard a coach come out and say, I want 10 different cadences? I've never heard that.
No, I've heard him talk about mastering the cadence and getting good at it. And I think that people are too dismissive of it because I think it is part. But I've never heard him say you can't be an elite offense without elite cadence.
And put a number on it, like 10 different ones.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I thought the one day he gave a pretty good explanation. He's like, sometimes it's color and sometimes it's the second color. His whole thing with this is you cannot just go on the same 2 counts all the time because it's not fair to your offensive line.
Right.
It's not, and it's going to get your quarterback killed.
Yeah.
So you have to get up there and master it. And he's also, I think when he says it, it's about the diagnosing of pre-snap. In some places you're bluffing. Some places you're looking at the sideline saying, what are you doing calling this play?
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just trying to get your own guys into the right place.
Well, I know you watch a lot of college football. I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but like the Gruden video with Jackson Dart, right? Where Gruden said, let me hear your cadence. And Jackson Dart went.
Great video.
And Gruden was like, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
Why has the college game dumbed this down?
Because it's all about tempo. If you watch a college game from the sideline and they're running this up-tempo spread, and it's the road team, they will only huddle at the beginning of the series. They will come up, they will get the signal, they will get it in, and then the right guard or the left guard will tap the center, and that's how they'll snap it because you can't
so
hear
loud.
the quarterback.
It's so loud.
But it goes so fast like that, and then they get up and they look over, they signal to each other, the guard taps them again, and they go. I mean, the times you're trying to draw people off in the college game are times you're in the huddle.
Yeah.
I mean, every year at the Senior Bowl, what you ask the quarterbacks is, hey, when's the last time you played under center? When's the last time you were in a huddle? And every year there's at least one that says, I haven't been in a huddle since 4th grade.
I also think
Yeah,
in college,
that's
and
crazy.
correct me if I'm wrong, they could stay in the ear piece of the quarterback longer into the play count, so they help basically diagnose the defensive formation and what they're looking at pre-snap for them in a way.
They're not preparing guys for the NFL.
But that's
That's
why
not
they
their job.
They're just trying to win.
But that's
Not
why they
their
get to
job.
the line so quickly, so the offensive coordinator from the booth, from that bird's eye angle, has time to say, before, I think it's at 20 seconds, correct me, is it 15, 20 seconds, whatever it is when the cutoff, the communication goes blank.
Right.
They have more time to say, hey, what do you see? And look, 3 to one side, you have a high safety, you're looking this way. Like they're basically telling quarterbacks how to read stuff in college, which it doesn't happen in the NFL like that.
It seems to me that, like it used to be years ago, college football was way more conservative than the NFL, and now it's kind of gone the opposite way.
So many college teams just go.
Yeah.
You know, and they'll admit that it takes years to get to that, and it's harder and harder now that they have new rosters every year.
Right.
But yeah, you're only going that tempo in the NFL at certain times, whereas colleges they'll have NASCAR tempo, super fast, and then their regular fast tempo.
Will we get to the point where the NFL goes that fast?
I think no huddle works for some teams, or obviously when you're down, but I don't think so. I think it's too complicated to do that. The offenses, and the defenses are too complicated.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be an adjustment coming because obviously the league has, after a number of years of offense going up, now it's starting to go down, slightly. And
some people attribute that to them taking the deep ball away. Teams are just playing their safeties high.
Right.
If you really think that you're a running team and you're running that good and you're really going to run it 4 yards at a time on us, go ahead. We don't think you're going to beat us on 14 play drives. And now it's like the counter to that is, all right, we're going to go multiple tight ends. And if you're going to sit back, then we're going to throw short passes.
Right, yeah.
And I still think that's what the Browns want to be, especially if Watson plays. A run-based, play action, everything thrown off play action, bootlegs, rollouts. But, they're better at wide receiver than they are at tight end right now. So we're going to see where that goes.
Yeah.
Tybus was on the show yesterday, and he told us a story that someone told him. So it's a game of telephone, so fully aware that maybe something got lost in translation. Jason, you were here yesterday, but he was talking about the cadence, the importance of the cadence and the tempo of both Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson. And he said someone told him that at one point, and maybe it was an open practice of what I'm asking you, Shedeur was on one field with the offense, Deshaun was on another field with the offense. They had the exact same script, and it was how quickly they could get in and out of plays. And at one point, Deshaun and that unit was 3 plays ahead of Shedeur and his unit. Do you know what he's talking about?
Yes. I don't know that it was 3 plays, but he acknowledged that. And that's when they were doing the 2 spotting every day. And they would be running the exact same 6 plays, jog through, get back, get it in. So if he got 3 plays ahead, that's notable. Todd said usually the better players and the older players that are in the first group will be faster. So it's not going to be exactly. But he addressed that, and that's what happens. And that's why it's different now, because you're not running the same 6 plays over and over again. Where Deshaun has had his best days as they put the ball on the 35 or 40-yard line, and we've actually seen him drive it. Where before that wasn't even the goal. Deshaun gets in, he runs his 4 plays, it's 1 run, it's 3 passes, then Shador runs in, runs his plays. You're not running up to the line and trying to capitalize. And they finished Saturday's practice. It was a short pass to Gage Larvin. He had a big run. They got down to the 15-yard line. They went no huddle. He realized there was a third-string corner on Denzel Boston. He threw it. Touchdown is what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
I feel like the word cadence is our new EPA. I think when I look at the Cleveland Browns quarterbacks, I think they are being coached extremely hard. I think Todd Monken is putting a lot on their plate, and sometimes the information can be a bit overwhelming. They are learning. The quarterbacks are learning. The wide receivers, the offensive linemen are learning. And they're being asked to do much more than I think they've been asked in the past. And so there are going to be a lot of errors. There are going to be a lot of mistakes. I've said on several occasions, that's what you want during training camp. That's what you want during this period. I'd much rather it be so many, procedural issues or pre-snap issues right now versus in week 1, 2, or 3 when the game started to count. And I think that this is going to only make them as a team better as they get to the regular season and through the regular season.
I have a hard time disagreeing. This is the time to make those mistakes. If you're going to go through a stretch of practice where you are still trying to implement a new offense, you're still trying to get everyone on the same page.
Right.
You'd much rather it happen in late July, early August before there's any real consequences to it than have it happen in the week lead up to week 1 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then whoever ends up being the starting quarterback is behind an offensive line. You're putting him behind the chains and 3rd and longs consistently.
But we might still see that.
You might, but you'd rather it be something you're going through for the 3rd time that you've already corrected twice, as opposed to making the mistake the first time and then having the actual consequences of your quarterback.
Are you saying rather than be, if they were playing well now, that wouldn't be good?
No, I'm saying rather than make the mistakes now, so hopefully you can correct it.
Hopefully,
as opposed to making the mistake the first time and realizing, oh, we're not on the same page because of X, Y, or Z in a real game. Now you're 3rd and 17 against Josh Hines Allen, Trayvon Walker, and that pass rush. And then you're trying to take it with live bullets and figure it out.
And that's where preseason matters. In the big picture, what happens the next 2 Saturdays really doesn't mean anything. But you need to get those experiences.
Right.
You can't script what you're going to do. You're not running the same 4 plays over and over again. So you get out there, you get in the 3rd and 8, and how do you handle it? And what the Browns want to accomplish is totally different than the Jaguars want to accomplish, or probably the Bears. I don't think we'll see any Bears starters in the first preseason game. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know what they would want to.
I wouldn't blame
where Todd Monken wants to play almost all of his, and that's just where the teams are right now.
Right. Right now, I got the Browns winning 5 games this year. Are you with me on that?
4
or 5. Okay. If they had, I guess what I'm trying to get to is if they had league average quarterback play, what would you be predicting them to win? If you knew for a fact they were going to get league average quarterback
play. League average quarterback play seems unattainable by what I've seen.
I agree. I'm just trying to think how much, if they had...
How much is quarterback play impacting how the season's going to go?
Yeah.
Huge. It's the biggest.
If they had Trevor Lawrence as their quarterback, would they be an 8-win team, 9-win team?
I think they could be, sure.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah. And that's what league average quarterback play is.
Yeah.
I'd even go 10.
That's the thing. Like this is not a bad roster.
We don't think.
It's
a thin roster.
It's a thin roster.
There's a lot of good young players.
Maybe we're overrating it a little bit. But there's some decent talent on this team.
Yeah.
So a lot of it's unproven, but there's some decent talent. But
this is totally different than the product that was out there 10 years ago that went 1-31. It's totally different than that.
There's some really good players in certain spots, but
it feels like those teams felt hopeless. These teams have, this Browns team has hope. There's a lot of good different pockets of talent on this roster. I think defensively,
a lot about September 27th.
Yeah, a lot of it is unproven, and a lot of the rookies, and we talked about this earlier. The rookie class has to be as good as they've looked in camp. The 2025 class has to take another step forward. A lot of times, and I'll use Jaden Daniels as an example, the rookie year to sophomore year leap doesn't go as expected. I think it's hard to expect all 5, 6, if you want to include Shador Sanders, of the rookies who played well above expectation from the 2025 class, all take another leap.
Why would we include Shador Sanders?
Well, if you're saying he's another guy that takes a step forward.
Right, but he didn't play well. You said for the guys who played well.
I said if you wanted to include 6, some people on this show think he
No,
played
he didn't
well.
play well. Objectively, he didn't play well. We all know this. Come on now.
I don't think he did, but there are people on the show who did, so I'm valuing their opinions.
All
so
right.
if you want to include him as the 6, that is up to you. It's hard to imagine all 6 take another leap forward.
Right.
So it's a lot of unproven commodities, but you're not looking top to bottom at this 53-man roster and saying, they don't have any dudes that we have to worry about on Sundays.
Right. But ultimately, when you have terrible quarterback play, there's no realistic path to winning a significant amount of games. That's the problem, ultimately.
That's right.
We agree on that.
Yeah.
But that's why this is about developing the young talent,
Right.
evaluating,
Right.
acquiring maybe in 1 or 2 more cases, but
Right.
developing what you have because you do have a good base and maybe a really good one that we're going to find out over the next couple
Right.
months.
I mean, a quarterback next year could be put into a very good position on this team, potentially.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And things could turn around in a hurry if they finally get it right at that position. Zach, good stuff as always. Have fun trying to keep your sanity at Browns camp today. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Guardians for the first time today. We're continuing to play lousy baseball since the All-Star break. That's next on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.